Good evening. It's Friday, July 17, 2020 here in Cebu City. I'm Sherry Ann Lim, and here's all you need to know in Newsbits tonight. The movement of locally stranded individuals, or LSIs, to and from Cebu City is still suspended despite the easing of restrictions in Cebu City. However, the Regional Interagency Task Force in Central Visayas has appealed to the National IATF to exempt outbound LSIs in Cebu City from the travel ban. Here's Chari Coronel for the details.
Despite the downgrading of Cebu City to modified enhanced community quarantine, the inter-island travels of passenger vessels are still prohibited. Thus, the suspension of the movement of the locally stranded individuals in going to and from Cebu City is still in effect. Cebu City Mayor spokesperson Ray Gilon said under the interagency omnibus guidelines on the implementation of community quarantine in the Philippines, public transportation in areas under ECQ and modified ECQ is suspended, and the movement of all residents is still limited to accessing essential goods and services and for work in permitted offices or establishments or such other activities listed. The movement of LSIs going to and coming from Cebu City is likewise temporarily suspended since June 19, following the directive of Department of the Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Anyo. The suspension has not yet been lifted as of Friday, July 17. However, the Regional IATF in Central Visayas sought the permission of the National IATF to allow outbound LSIs in Cebu City to be exempted from the travel ban. It passed Resolution 14 Series of 2020 on July 11 when Cebu City was still under ECQ. The resolution also stated LSIs should comply all requirements under the National Task Force Against COVID-19 Order 2020-02 and DILG Memorandum Circular 2020-087 prior to their return to their respective places of residence. LSIs will also be subjected to local health protocols imposed by the receiving local government units. The Regional IATF saw the need to allow outbound LSIs in Cebu City to return to their residences as they have been stranded for some time in the city and have therefore run out of resources to support their daily living. Chari Coronel, Newsbits Tonight.
Motorcycle riders can make their own barrier so long as it meets the standards approved by the National Task Force Against COVID-19. Here's Kenneth Torres for the details.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government at Central Visayas said that motorcycle riders can make their own barriers as long as it follows the specifics approved by the National Task Force Against COVID-19 as designed by the Provincial Government of Bohol and ride-hailing app Angkas. DILG Central Visayas Information Officer Michael Braga said the DILG cannot prescribe a specific manufacturer to make the said barriers. Pillion riding for couples, live-in partner, and common law partners living in the same house in areas under General Community Quarantine and Modified GCQ was first allowed last July 10. On July 13, the NTF COVID-19 approved 2 anti-COVID barrier prototypes for backriding on motorcycles. These include the prototypes submitted by Bohol Governor Arthur Yap and by Angkas Chief Transport Advocate George Ruyeca. Installing safety motorcycle barrier or shield between the driver and his passenger is just among the conditions set by the NTF in allowing riding in tandem in motorcycles amid the current health crisis. Aside from the barrier, valid identification cards to be presented as proof that the persons are married to each other or couples living together are also required. Kenneth Torres, Newsbits Tonight.
Foreigners with long-term visas will be allowed to enter the Philippines starting August 1, subject to certain conditions. Here's Chari Coronel for the details.
Beginning August 1, foreigners with long-term visas will be allowed to enter the country subject to certain conditions. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases approved Resolution Number 56 yesterday. In the resolution, foreigners who wish to enter the country are required to have valid and existing visas at the time of entry. Travelers with new entry visas will not be entertained. Foreigners must also secure a pre-booked accredited quarantine facility and a pre-booked COVID-19 testing provider. The Malacanang said returning overseas Filipinos will still be given priority, so foreigners will be subject to maximum capacity of inbound passengers at the port and date of entry. Chari Coronel, Newsbits Tonight.
For the latest in sports, here's Kenneth Torres.
The Philippine Basketball Association Commissioner's Office has come down hard on Blackwater Elite as it slapped the team with a whopping 100,000 pesos for returning to practice last weekend. Aside from the fine, all of the team's players and coaches were ordered to undergo swab testing and a 7-day quarantine if the tests come out negative and they show no symptoms. The announcement was made yesterday. The PBA Commissioner's Office will also probe the numerous comments that team owner Yusel Dusi made after he was apprised of the potential sanctions that were coming his team's ways after he barred in an online interview that his team had already resumed workouts. While the Interagency Task Force has already given the PBA the green light to allow its teams to return to practice, albeit in small groups, the league itself has yet to hand down an official memorandum about it. Kenneth Torres, Newsbits Tonight.
To get the latest, visit www.sunstar.com.ph. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Cherry Ann Liv. Good evening.